is the industry leader in both service and unique events in the TCG arena. Whether it's running the largest community-run tournaments for Flesh and Blood or providing service with a generosity that is unique to the Realm Games, you can count on the Realm for an unforgettable experience. Check out their website at realmgamingnetwork.com for details about their $50,000 Flesh and Blood tournament circuit happening all across North America. But check out everything else going on at the Realm, including tournaments for all kinds of other experiences. And just for you, ISP listeners, use the code INSTANT5, that's INSTANT 5, to get 5% off your checkout when you're buying from the Realm. Welcome, friends, to the Instant Speed Podcast, episode 125. That is a lot. And this week, I bring you, frankly, it's the Realm Games who are bringing you this absolute just pillar of mystery, frankly. I don't even know how else to better describe it. I call him the Fixer because he just fixes things. It is none other than one Joe Sapp. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You are in one hell of a throne there, but we'll get to that in a second. I do have to get to some business here, which is, again, the Realm Games sponsoring another episode of the Instant Speed Podcast, and they also are sponsoring a $10 gift card, a little a credit that you can use at the realmgamingnetwork.com. And the winner from last week, I asked you, what is your best take when it comes to Flesh and Blood? The winner being Cryonicity, saying, I think the best take is that the game is growing at a pace faster than it can handle right now. We are having some growing pains with some aspects. I think that's true. I think that is a nail on the head. But the game is 5 years old. At a certain point, I feel like we do have to get past those growing pains and just kind of come into who we are. All right, Joe Sapp.
Hello.
I like this was one I kind of had in my back pocket and that I wanted to get to for a while. I was actually going to ask you in Los Angeles if you wanted to do a little on-site interview process, but again, there was some miscalculations when it came to customs. Apparently, I'm a danger to your country. Did you know that, Joe?
You know, you've always struck me as such a villain.
Yes.
So being a highly sensitive human, vibes mean a lot to me. And I got to tell you, all those warm fuzzies I get when I'm around you, Flake, I just don't know. I'm not sure about you.
That is what the customs agent said. They're like, you know what? Joe might like you, but we don't. We got to sort of balance it out somewhere. But I want to ask you a little bit before we get into the here and now. Let's get a little bit about the lore, some of that origin story goodness when it comes to Joe Sapp and card games. I want to know where your journey began and how it all led up to where we are today and your involvement in Flesh and Blood.
Sure. A lot of it actually has to do with somebody who was recently on your show. But we will get to that in a moment. So I started as a Magic the Gathering player long, long ago. I used to buy packs of Revised and Ice Age, and I played a bunch when I was a kid, like you do with cards that are now worth hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, but on the concrete with no playmats and no sleeves, because that's just how you did it in the beginning, right? At a certain point in time, I think it was 2014, after playing competitively for a bit, I decided to become a judge. I've always been a kind of a community person, kind of a community builder. And I got involved with the judge side of things because what better way to grow a game and be a part of something a little bit bigger than yourself than to be like this neutral arbiter that tries to help people understand the game and understand certain interactions. And, have a great time at pre-releases and things like that. Eventually, I found these things called Grand Prix that used to exist, these giant events at massive scales. And I was lucky enough to get staffed for one in 2015. It was a huge release out in Las Vegas, super fun. A couple shows in, I kind of realized that I enjoyed the administrative side of things. So you have your core group of judges that are like rules experts, people that just know the ins and the outs and all the interactions, what cards do, what timings happen at what times. And then you have your admin staff at events, which kind of help with all the other stuff. So you walk into an event and you see the prize wall, or you see the tournament registration area. Like, hey, that sounds like kind of fun. A whole lot of fun. You can have some good conversations with people and try to get people excited for the event that they're at and whatnot. And I bounced around to all these different positions. I tried registration. I tried prize wall. Those were all fun, but I hadn't quite found a home until I met a now I won't call him infamous. I guess he's kind of the guy. I ran into a Trevor Baker in 2015 in San Diego. Was the first time that we met, and I had an interest in what he was doing, which is known as back of house. Back of house is kind of like that person in the shadows that's just kind of standing off to the side. And, as it aligns with your nickname for me, you just kind of fix things. So something happens at the venue, the lights go out, or just name something random and crazy that happens at an event. You're that person that okay, cool, I'm going to contact the venue. We're going to figure out what to do here, figure out how to fix the problem, and so everyone can go about their way having a great time. And I did that for many years out on the road. I got hired to do it professionally. I evolved the role a little bit to kind of incorporate working with VIPs at events like cosplayers and artists and people like that, and kind of established myself as somebody that was like a reliable bodyguard, for lack of better words. And that kind of went on and on from about 2015 till the pandemic, and then it all kind of went away, and some years passed, and then somewhere along the lines met a Mr. James White through random happenstance. Not happenstance at all. But that's a long story for another time. Trevor knows what I'm talking about.
Okay,
And,
I'm not gonna dig into it. I mean, maybe
it was just a really fun trip. We ended up going to Singapore and met up with James, and it was a really cool experience. But we'll hopefully get to that later. If not, definitely when I see you next.
Okay, a little ISP after dark kind of situation.
Oh man, dude, did we just create something awesome? Because I think we kind of so Trevor took over for organized play, and last April he's like, hey, I have kind of a silly thing to ask. Do you want to come out to Baltimore? Sure, that sounds like fun. What am I going to do? Well, James needs someone to wrangle his line. You've seen in the past that it hasn't worked out sometimes. And we've got a stage for LSS. You could be like the stage manager. And it kind of became this joke of like, what, dude, do you want me to like wear a suit and be like Mr. Fancy Man? Yeah, that's actually kind of a good idea. So I ended up in Baltimore, and then I met Flake, and then the rest is history.
Well, that was, history is one way to put it. But you're right. I mean, Baltimore was quite fascinating of a meeting happenstance there, because where you and I had our first kind of like interaction in Baltimore, I believe it was, I think we were where I was like during the cosplay contest, or there's something going on stage and whatever, and then there were some hooligans that kind of like infiltrated, and I initially thought that they were somebody's kids or some people who were playing in the event, and you like sniffed it out real quick, and you're like, no, get them the hell out of here. And I was like, gotcha. Like, absolutely. I'm like, all right, we're done here. See you later. But like, that is your instinct versus mine, which was, hey, these people want to run their mouths. They're up against the god of running his mouth. So like, let's see how that works. But you just absolutely, you totally like Uncle Phil jazzed them out the door in a kinder way. I mean, I'm definitely exaggerating there, but what I'm trying to allude to here is, basically what was asked through Twitter from Collision Point, saying, I see this man everywhere on Twitter, but also at events, and I've been too embarrassed to figure out who he actually is. And I think that this is the vibe that most people are kind of getting from this whole scenario, which is you're not hard to miss. Like, You're a presence. You're the best dressed at the event. You're a tall guy, and people will see you and see that you're usually around somebody of significance, be it James White or the professor or a cosplayer or an artist or whatever, and you look like you're getting stuff done. And I think a lot of people might think that, is that like Mr. Flesh and Blood? Is that like the final boss? Like, who is this guy? So can you maybe walk us through a little bit of, like, what is your role? I call you the fixer, okay? Like, because you have endeared yourself to me from the capacity of, like, every time I'm around you, like, I've lived alone since I was 23. I've lived alone for 15 years of, like, the past 15 years. Everything I've needed to do, I've typically done on my own. I've usually tried to be self-sufficient as much as possible. I'm not saying that I don't ask for help or I don't require it at times, but like you are always there ready to offer me assistance, help, facilitate something or other. And I'm usually like, no, I got it. It's all good. And that is where I was like, man, this is somebody who is just the fixer. Like, any problem, you're like, if there's anything that you need, anything goes wrong, here's my card, here's my number, here's what you do. I'm on the case. And that is what I have witnessed and what I've experienced. But for those who have not been or had that kind of backstage access to see you in action, what is your role specifically?
So right now, I help out Trevor at Premier Events. If there is going to be an LSS presence at any of these events, whether it's James or someone else from the organization that might need somebody to kind of look after them, make sure they're doing okay, that's where I can kind of step in and help out. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes there's like an LSS stage. So if you, for those of you that were in Barcelona or Baltimore, now that I think of it, there's a stage. It's got various programming throughout the day. There's a panel with an artist, or there's like the cosplay competition, as you mentioned, or James is doing a signing or something like that. And the role, generally speaking, is just to take care of the people that are on that stage. If they're working with tech, get them all plugged in, get their computers up, help them out, mic check. In Baltimore, I did an impromptu panel with one of the artists, Federico.
Mm-hmm.
I was walking him up to the stage, and he's like, "Hey, you're going to help me out, right?" And in my mind, I'm like, "Yep, sure am. Going to make sure your mics work and your TV's plugged in, and then I'm going to go and get some lunch." He's like, "No, you're going to help me speak, right?" Yeah. And we get up on the stage, and I'm looking out there. There's a couple people in the crowd, and as soon as I speak into the mic, I see everybody from the Star City Games stage. You know that when people don't just turn their head, but they turn their whole body. The entire stage looked over, and I could just feel the 50 Shades of Red. I was super embarrassed, but that's what the situation called for. So regardless of what I was doing in that moment or intending to do at that moment, I was now hosting this panel. And so for the next 45 minutes, that's what I did.
So I have most of my, career happens to occur much like that, which is just, hey, by the way, did you know that you're doing XYZ? I'm like, nope, but let's go. Let's just strap in and see where we land on this. And the fact that you just kind of rise to the occasion every time is a blessing to, us who are involved in it directly, but to everybody else who's just kind of spectating or even in the periphery. You have your fingerprint on a lot of the smooth operation of a lot of the things, because it's easy to say that, okay, you are in charge of making sure that, not you specifically, but there's somebody in charge of judging. There's somebody in charge of timekeeping, somebody in charge of, firing off side events or whatever. But there's just this laundry list of small things where it's like, well, who handles this? And it's just your brain explodes. And I've been in those scenarios where I've just, like you said, audio issues or tech issues or something like that, and it's just been like, well, who's in charge of this? And it's I have no idea. And in my head, I'm like, but we got Joe, and that is kind of where this comes around. It's like the way that I'm just kind of like, the best analogy I can give is that when you're doing long division, whatever is the remainder, Joe will just crush it. Joe will eliminate the remainder from the equation. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a clean division, but Joe's going to take that remainder and stuff it in a garbage can and make sure you don't have to worry about it. And that's a brilliant factor about it, because while, hundreds of people are jamming games, there's so much going on and so many gears turning that eventually, you just kind of lose track of things. So there you are. And one of the people I know who absolutely is just enamored with what you do and is so thankful for that is James. And you and James have done a lot of work together. You've been in a lot of events, but there's more than just a professional relationship there, right? Like, you guys are friends. Like, you guys, I see you guys are hanging out, and like, he trusts you, and that must make you feel good.
It really does. Like, you can't spend that much time with somebody and not get to know them a little bit and not form some kind of human connection, right? And in the initial times of like just working alongside of him a little bit, even before I worked with him at events, just little side conversations, finding out little similarities. When we met up in Singapore a couple of years ago, we just had some idle small talk kind of walking around the venue, and we both find out these similarities. Like, we're both wrestling fans. Spoiler alert, James loves wrestling, specifically Triple H. I am also a Triple H fan. So like, one of our first, bonding moments was like, cool, we have this common interest. It's sports theater, it's sports entertainment. Awesome. And it just kind of segues into other stuff. And when you develop a friendship with somebody, it doesn't have to be this one capstone thing that like, oh my God, I discovered this about Flake and now he's my bestie. Sometimes it's all the little stuff that kind of chains together, and you just realize that like your moral fabric is kind of the same. And you, like in this case, you come from completely different parts of the world, but you end up, in the same little sphere, in the same little world. You meet in a convention center playing a card game. And it's like actually kind of a cool thing. The other part of it is like, I think that personal friendship kind of very positively affects the professional relationship. Like, the fact of the matter is like, I really like James as a human. I care about him. I think he's a really good human. It's my absolute pleasure to kind of look after him, right? And so it makes it easier when it's like, okay, I've got to get there an hour or two before him. I've got to make sure that like the queue is in order. He's got what he needs, his Sharpies, his draft chaff, his water, like whatever he needs. I have to be prepared for these interactions, like when to step in, when to let things go. That it reminds me of the saying that, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. I honestly feel that way. And it's great. So it's been really nice getting to know him. It's been nice to know that those feelings of trust are real. And I can start to feel a difference over time of like, every time we work together, he just feels a little more relaxed. He just feels a little more like, hey, can you handle X, Y, and Z? Absolutely. It'd be my pleasure. So, so far, so good, man. I've got a lot of really good things to say about James White.
It's always slightly tragic, I feel, because even in the most busy of schedules where you see somebody so often, you see them, but you don't exactly get to be with them or be around them, and it's always a challenge to spend the time that you want to with the people that you want to, and like, I feel this all the time where it's so odd for me to say, but it's like, when I'm at an event, that is probably the hardest time to be around me or to talk to me, because that's where I'm the most tied up and such. It's like, you see me, but it's like it's not really a fact, but you're right there with them, and that friendship is something that I think that has grown over time. And like, you and I, like, when I see you at an event, there's this sort of wave of relief where I'm like, okay, if it hits the fan, like, I've got a panic button and he's right there, and he's dressed to the nines, and he's like, 10 on 10. But it's the truth, man. And like, that's the thing. And that's why part of me wanted to bring you on the show, not just to let people know who you are, what you do, and how awesome it all is. But it's like, this is just an excuse, Joe, for you and I to like have a chat and just shoot the breeze a little bit, because at all the events, we always just are kind of in each other's DMs a little bit here, saying like, dinner, this, maybe we should like, hang out, go grab a drink, go do this. And it's like, at the end of it, it's like, I'm at the airport and I got to do about 2% of the things I wanted to do. And it's a tragedy.
I feel you. And it's actually kind of funny. I think it applies to my friendship with you and the same with James, right? Like, most of the conversations we have are now just off site. Like, it's WhatsApp. It's the, leading up to an event. Hey man, just checking in on you. When are you getting in? Do you want me to be there at the airport for you? Like, kind of stuff like that. Because like, sitting next to him for a couple hours, he's so focused on the person that's in front of him. And just I'm gonna go off script here, and I'm just gonna gloat about James a little bit more. That man is so busy, dude. His calendar is nuts, and the fact that he's still trying to make time to meet people, sign things for people, et cetera, et cetera. We get these little micro conversations in between people. Like, okay, there's approximately 25 seconds before the next person walks up. Hey, James, are you good? Do you need water? Do you need a bathroom break? Hey, like, what did you do last night? And then the next person sits down. So it's kind of funny. And I feel the same way about you. Like, you are also so plugged in. You're doing so many things. You're casting. You're the MC for all this stuff. And it's very clear that, we're forming a friendship. We like each other. We would love to hang out together. But I think it kind of touches to the, earlier part of what we were talking about. As a player or an attendee at an event, you just get to be there, and you just get to enjoy it, and you get to play in your tournaments, and you get to hang with friends and like do your thing. When you're involved with the event, and like when you're actually directly involved in the event, you've got a role to fill. It's almost impossible to be like everyone else and just be carefree and just take it all in. The back of house job that we were talking about earlier, it's exactly what you mentioned, all those little things that get done behind the scenes. While you are sitting down in your chair and you're waiting for your sealed pool to be passed out, that's the only thing you're thinking about. But 2 hours before that, it was taken out of boxes, sorted, put on a cart, and like itemized in like the back end inventory before it ever gets to you. So it's that part of like one of those 10,000 little things that people don't think about. So you're on it, dude. You're plugged in. I feel so seen by you, Flake.
I try my best, and like, this is the one thing that in the same vein that I am so unavailable, I try my best where every moment that I have that isn't with a red light in front of me saying like, all right, we're live kind of thing, is to just try my best to be around and see the people that I want to see and talk to those who for some reason want to talk to me. And I find that these events are there's so much going on, and I am more sympathetic to those who have 9 rounds of Swiss to play on a particular day, or 8 rounds of Swiss to play. It's like you've got 8 or 9 hours of actual intense mental fatigue and gameplay that you need to navigate. I just need to make a Star Wars or wrestling reference every 10 minutes on stream, and I feel like I did a good job. And like, meanwhile, everybody else is out there on a high stress sort of situation where when I walk out of the booth, I've got a big smile on my face, and I'm, most of the time it's just to try to run to the bathroom between rounds and stuff like that. But if somebody wants to talk to me, I'm like so content to be like, maybe this is the relief that these people need to sort of disconnect from the stress of a high leverage game that they just came out of. And maybe they won or maybe they lost, but at the end of the day, they're looking to have some sort of connection. And I think that, like you said, and even if you find it within those 30-second periods, and I've been in that situation, Joe, where I'm just like, I've got, 3 minutes before I need to be back in that chair. I know that it's going to take me 10 seconds to get to that bathroom. It's going to take me about, 2 minutes to do whatever, wash my hands and come back. So I can budget you about 35 seconds, and you go through it and whatnot. And like every little bit and piece of time is already parsed out and sort of given, and I wouldn't have it any other way, frankly. Like when I go back to my hotel room at whatever time and I'm just absolutely just completely gassed, I think, wow, okay, like this is a good feeling. And I'm wondering if ever you feel at the end of the day that like, has there ever been a time where you've done an event and you said like, man, like I wish I could have done this more, or I wish I could have done that more? And what are those things that you wish you could have done more?
Um, that's a great question. And I think that ironically, it's more of what is already happening. So, um, people's time is such a valuable commodity, right? And it kind of goes back to what I was talking about with those little micro interactions with James. It's the same thing with the people that wait in this line, right? They queue up, they're going to wait for an hour or two or three to get some stuff signed and have a conversation with somebody that they really, really look up to. One thing I really, really love is having, some genuine conversations and getting to know some of the people that are queuing up at 8 o'clock when he's not going to be there until 10. And the downside is there's such limited time to have those interactions because we can only help so many people. Just time is precious, right? And sometimes I really enjoy having those conversations. Hey, where are you from? Where did you drive? Did you fly? Have you ever met James before? Like getting to really know the members of this community. I wish I could do that more. But sometimes when you get locked in, it's just like you're so laser focused on things. Barcelona was kind of an example of that. I had not only James, but I had the professor. And, Brian is a popular guy. People line up to see him too. And there's only one of me. So it's like you end up in this space where you're like trying to have a genuine conversation with the person that's in front of you. Because normally the person that you're talking to should be the most important person in the room, right? I want to connect with you. I want to have a meaningful conversation with you. But unfortunately, this person over here just jumped the line, so I've got to go and handle that. Brian wanted to take a picture of him and this person that's on the stage. And so all that talking aside, having more of those kind of short but genuine interactions throughout the course of an event. And as you know, being somebody that's busy and being somebody that's running all over the place, trying to do X, Y, Z, 1, 2, and 3, sometimes you don't have enough time for that person that walks up and is like, hey, can I get a picture with you? You're that guy that always wears a suit. Can I get a selfie? And, I would love to take a selfie with you. I'd love to high five you and ask you how your weekend's going. But unfortunately, like, there's just all of these things that are like on my list and they're all time sensitive. Seem like a great human, but I gotta go.
Yeah, that's it's kind of like leaving a wedding to a degree, where you're the hardest thing is just getting from point A to point B, because there's always going to be people that want to talk to you, do this and do that, and like leaving a venue is kind of the same way. And like I love it though. Like I am someone who I would never want to take for granted the fact that people, some people appreciate what I do, and I want to make sure that they feel that they feel that I appreciate it. And that's why anybody who wants to talk to me, I'm like, let's get it done. But at the same time, like you say, there are so many restraints, and they're always linked to time. Like that's it. It's not a matter of energy. It's not a matter of desire or want. It's just that schedule that crunches you.
It's absolutely, and honestly, it's not even a me thing. What I really like, who I really feel empathy for are the people that'll wait in line and they'll do it 2 or 3 days in a row. And it's such a long wait for such little time with James. And there's a part of me that it tears me up inside sometimes, because it's like I saw you sit in that chair at 8 a.m. when I walked in this morning, and it is now 10:10, and you've been here for 2 hours. So I always feel this need to try to, like, in addition to being the scary line guy, like, try to be personable. I, you'd be surprised. It's funny. Um, I, for all of you that may be listening or will be listening, I know I look like a James Bond movie villain, but I assure you,
Look,
so, so the people that are sitting there and queuing up, like, I feel like it's part of my job is not only to, be there and be available for James and Trevor and the tournament organizer, whoever's hired me, but I want to be there for the people that are spending all this time in line. You could be doing anything in that room. You could be playing, you could be buying stuff at the merch booth, you could be hanging out with your friends, taking pictures, making TikTok videos, or you're choosing to sit in the seat and wait. And you're waiting for what ends up being only a couple minutes. And it's not because I don't want you to be there for any longer. It's not that James doesn't want you to be any longer, but it's like we've got 2 hours or 3 hours, and you want to get as many people through the line as possible. But that trade-off is brutal. So I always try to give a little bit of love to the people that are in the line, try to make them laugh, try to make them feel like their time is being well spent. That's what I would want if I was in that situation.
well, you definitely do a good job of making people feel welcome and appreciated. But it's sort of what is a casualty of all of this, and I feel this, and I'm wondering if you do too, is the fact that now that me, we're kind of professionally linked to card games, but it's not as players. And even though that's how we burst into this whole industry, was as casual players, people enjoying playing card games and such, I find that one of the things that I get to do the least is play the game. And I'll play casually. I'll play, online if I can. I'll play wherever it's available. But when push comes to shove, it's very rare that I will be playing at a major event, because I will either be involved from a casting capacity, from a broadcast capacity, or whatever, or otherwise it's just not within my capacity to be there. That, all that said, I still have that fire burning in me to play, and I play whenever I can. I drove to Hartford to play. I drove to Philadelphia to play. I'm going to Minneapolis to play in the calling. I managed to miraculously qualify for Canadian Nationals, which is amazing. But outside of that, it's like those are issues, or those are sort of events where I had to sort of block time off on the schedule way in advance and say, I'm playing this. And I'm wondering, where you stand currently when it comes to playing games, playing Flesh and Blood specifically. Are you still playing Magic? How much of your time, in that you dedicate to card gaming is allocated to gameplay? And that sounds ridiculous when you kind of look back on what I just said, of like how much of your time in card gaming is allocated to playing the games. But that's the reality of somebody in your position or somebody in my position. And I'm wondering, are you still playing games, and how much of?
The answer is not enough. Um, I have to make a terrible confession to you, and that is my very, very, yes, I know. I feel the judgment. I
I'm
can
bracing.
see that look in your eye. I have not played a whole lot of Flesh and Blood. I shock and awe, right? I played a couple. I played a couple games with IRA intro decks, and I enjoy the game. But with the way my life is right now, personally and professionally, I do enjoy. I absolutely enjoy the community. That's why I'm here talking to you. I absolutely enjoy the aesthetic, the lore of the game. Like, I do get to absorb all those things, but the amount of time I've had to dedicate to learning Flesh and Blood has been minimal. So I'm not a very experienced player. In terms of Magic, I try to play it all the time. I try to play it pre-releases. I give myself about one event a year where I'll fly somewhere and go and have a good time. This year, that is going to be SCG Con Vegas. Vegas is not too far from California. They've got a wide offering of, Magic, Lorcana, Flesh and Blood. I might explore a little bit more Fab play at that event. But certainly going there for Modern Horizons 3 for Magic. I still love Magic despite kind of where it is. I don't want to get too far into that because that's a polarizing topic right now. But I do love playing. I wish I could play more. I love hosting events here at my house, but I'm with you. I'm a very competitive person. I love playing games. I love playing cards. I wish I could get out there more. And I want to fly to this city and do this thing. I am flying to that city doing that thing. I'm working. Oh no. So, trying to establish a balance has proven to be difficult.
Well, but we do what we can, and that's part of it. And I have all the respect in the world for the Brody Spurlocks of the world and all the other pros who are essentially almost at every freaking event that you could possibly think of. And I thought like there was like in 2023, there was a period where I think where it was like 8 out of 10 weekends I was on the road. I was traveling. I was in the States. I was here. I was there. And I enjoyed it. I loved it. At the same time, it was like the stress wasn't on me to go and win. Like I didn't have this looming cloud over my head of like, if you don't place, like you're not paying for this trip or like you're just wasting money or whatever. Like I was going there to earn and that was my life. And the stress for me was acquiring the job and getting hired. And then after that, it's like, all right, I just got to do what I do and we're good. I have so much respect for those who go to all these events and go through that meat grinder of Swiss rounds and top eights and travel and this and that and late night sort of testing sessions and whatever. But man, I'm telling you, like you said, that one date on the calendar that you put aside to say, I'm going to Vegas, I'm going to go have a good time, I'm going to go play cards, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do and make some memories. Like that's how I feel about, when I'm going to be going to Minneapolis to go play, like during US Nats, I'll be playing in the calling alongside everybody else. And that's where I'm going to get my joy out of the card games. But I think your answer of not enough resonates so much with me, with you, with so many others out there who probably feel the exact same way, Joe, which is it's a fire that burns that's not easily sort of snuffed out. There's always like these embers that burn, but this one is just this roaring fire that I can't put out. So you just kind of learn to live with the heat. And but all that said, I mean, you're going to this one event for fun, but you've attended so many events. I'm curious, how many events do you attend on an annual basis?
Now that number has dwindled significantly. So now it's honestly just going to be any premier event, typically like U.S. Nationals, Worlds, Pro Tours, things of that nature, because that's where the most support is needed. So the answer right now is only about 3 to 4. Contrast that with the before times, before the pandemic, and I was on the road 35, 40 weeks a year. I was a contractor and then hired by a tournament organizer to do Magic events, and it was like sometimes like 3 out of 4 weeks in a month, I'd be on the road. But I'm a road dog. I've lived this life before as well. So the card game part of it was just kind of like part 2.
Well, 30 to 40 weeks a year is unreal, and even though you sort of reel that into 4 premier events, like 2 Pro Tours, Nationals, Worlds, it still takes you around the world. And I think that's pretty cool. Like you're going to be in Osaka, right?
Indeed. Japan is my favorite place in the world. World Championships have proven to be really fun, really amazing events. It's a great touch point to be part of the community, meet people from different places. And it did not take me too much convincing to sign on for that. I'm really, really looking forward to Osaka.
I am just now realizing, as we record this, it's May 7th, and I am just now coming to terms with the fact that in exactly 1 week, I am on a plane to Tokyo for the world premiere of Mistveil. And it hasn't even computed with me yet because I think I was just so jaded by my travel experience to Los Angeles that I just I like mentally turtled up when it comes to thinking about travel, because I used to travel all the freaking time. And now I thought that this was just going to be another sort of walk in the park. And then all this whole fiasco occurred. And now I'm going to Japan, and I was like, I'm back on. I'm back in it. I feel like it was kind of like this like rebirth to a degree. But there is a question coming in from Greg, aka Darth Prentice, who says, "What's your favorite Flesh and Blood moment to date, and maybe your most proudest Flesh and Blood achievement?" And that doesn't have to be obviously card gaming, like gameplay. But I'm curious what is the most resounding memory that just lives in your brain? There's like,
that's the moment.
Yeah, no, take your time. And like, I get asked this sometimes too, like, oh, what's your favorite Flesh and Blood moment or your favorite event moment? And like, to me, there's really not one that stands out, because they kind of all mesh together and form this mosaic that I can only see from a distance as this beautiful picture of like, look at all these memories that I've kind of put together to form this beautiful picture. Like, I can't move in and just isolate one, because if you take one piece out, it kind of ruins the grander scheme of things. It's like picking a favorite child.
Sure. Honestly, it's a moment that's not about me. It's just something that I kind of witnessed, which might kind of sound crazy, but it's the truth. So at Los Angeles, which unfortunately you were not at.
Oh, is that the memory? Is it makes it happy because I wasn't there, Joe? Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly it. I wasn't actually actively brokenhearted the entire weekend. I was really looking forward to seeing you, just so you know.
Joe, you're breaking my heart, man.
Hey, dude, I made reservations at this place. Here's the menu. It's awesome. And yeah, sounds good. And then a day later, you made your post. This is going to sound crazy, but honestly, that on Thursday nights at the players' reception, there's like a keynote, right? There's where James will get up and make an announcement. And at this last one, it just kind of hit me a little harder than the others, but it was James was up there doing this thing, and then he's like, "Hey, I want to introduce, our director of Premier Organized Play, Trevor Baker." There's that name again. Popular guy, that Trevor Baker. And just there was this weird moment in time where like he's just before he walks up there to do his thing, he's like reviewing his notes, and then he just turns and like gives me a little pat on the shoulder, and he's walking his way up to the stage. And it was just kind of like, the sensation of like seeing your life flash before your eyes. It was kind of that, but like the history of like, we took this trip, we went to Singapore, we met James, they kind of headed off. That ended up being a job for Trevor. Trevor and I have worked together forever. He called me in April of last year when I hadn't worked any kind of card game for like 4 years, brought me back out to be, part of this community. And it was just like, just that this led to this, led to this, led to this. And now one of my very best friends in the whole world is doing this, keynote speech in front of all these people that are just like so invested and so like hanging off of every word of like where these events will happen and how it's going to happen. And just having that knowledge of like, wow, I've known this guy forever. He is having this really amazing moment right now. I've been a part of it, here, there, and over there for the last 10 years, directly and indirectly, and it's all kind of come together. And I'm here because of this guy. So it's kind of, I'm not trying to deflect here, but like that was kind of one of those moments where it's just like, oh my God, I'm part of this team. I'm part of this group of people. I'm here to help these guys out. And, it's so interconnected. It was just kind of a cool moment.
Hey, I can feel you on that. And like, Trevor's a great dude. Obviously you know him infinitely more than I do, but I every now and then when we're chatting or whatever, and yeah, I had him on the podcast a few weeks ago, which was really great. I know what you feel, because at Worlds in Barcelona, one of my friends, Aaron Shantz, from Toronto, some guy lives really close by to me that I had met through this game, and who has always been nothing but generous with his time and helping me and stuff like that. Getting to interview him moving into like a top 8 and like moving into his, like you can't help but interviewing him after he wins a very crucial match and being like, how do you hide your bias? How do you not want to just like in the same vein where he taps you on the shoulder and goes does his thing? Like after we finished interviewing, it was just like he's like, I got to go play my semifinal, or I got to go do this or whatever, and you're just like, and you just feel that kind of pride for them. You feel like this sort of go get them. Like you just want them. You're proud of their success, and you just want them to do better and continue to improve and continue to succeed. I feel you on that, and I'm getting all sappy with this because it's a good community, like you said, and Trevor brought you into it, and here we are enjoying the fruits of all that labor of good people trying to do good things and putting on good shows. And I'm going to ask you some little questions, a little bit of the behind the curtain stuff. I want to ask you, what is one of the fires that you have put out that some people might not know about?
Oh man, one immediately springs to mind. This is a wild one. So, Grand Prix Memphis 2019, which would later be coined GP Jackhammer. Just think about that for just a second. Just ruminate about.
Trying not to, frankly.
So there's some correspondence before the event that's like, hey, there's going to be some light construction in the venue. It's not going to affect your event, though. Don't worry, everything's fine. And the convention center in Memphis, in particular, it's pretty big. So there's a non-zero chance that they're telling the truth, and that construction, that light construction that's happening over there, is not going to affect our event over here. So we get there and we load in, and we feel the ground shake, like actually shaking. I don't know if you've been in, like, it felt like an actual earthquake every so often. There was heavy construction happening. And no, it wasn't down the hall, Flake. It was right under us, and it was shaking the floor. So we're trying to load into this event, and we're setting tables and chairs and like getting everything all good to go, and the floor is violently shaking. We contact the venue, contact Trevor, who is helping navigate the situation, and hey Joe, what's going on there? I'm getting all these messages from our team. Dude, the floor is shaking. Like actually, like people are getting like seasick from the vibrations in the ground. Okay, all right. So he talks to the venue. Everything should be fine for tomorrow. Friday rolls around. We have people in the venue, paying customers that are there to play cards. The floor is shaking. It is very loud. We have customers that are walking up to us and just be like, I just got sick because of the noise and the vibrations. This is terrible. So this is now a huge problem, right? Because it's not just affecting us, it's affecting attendees. At 5 p.m. that night, between Trevor and our show manager, Lems, the decision gets made at 5 p.m. on Friday that we need to move the entire event out of that room, across the hall, and into the little meeting rooms along the way. So I'm like, okay, I can do this, but I need every able-bodied person you can possibly give me. So the staff from the venue came down in their suits and rolled up their sleeves, and we had to orchestrate moving the entire room. And mind you, we have to follow a floor plan, right? Like, you don't just go in and just be like, I want to put this table there and put some chairs around it. There's a floor plan that we have to follow, and it's been approved. And like, so it's just scramble mode. And we moved out of that entire room. We set up in multiple ballrooms across the hall, just dragging tables across the carpet and just hand moving chairs and banners, and like it was wild. We didn't finish until almost midnight, but the coolest thing is that the very next day, there were people that showed up to the event, and they were just like, "Hey, this is awesome. We're having a great time." There were literally hundreds of people that showed up to that event on Saturday that had no idea that the day before it was actually set up in the main room, and I would consider that a win. And GP Jackhammer, man, I will never forget that for the rest of my life.
Look,
So
for those who may have followed my Twitter last year when my entire apartment building was getting renovated, all of the balconies were getting replaced. This isn't a new building. It's very old. It's like concrete and steel beams kind of thing. They were like, oh, it'll be, like you said, mild disruption, some noise, because it was being jackhammered. Like they had to, on 20 floors times, like 10 apartments all the way around, 10 balconies. They were there just like drilling. Like things were like falling off the shelves from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m., 10 hours a day, just nonstop drilling. You got some reprieve during the lunch hour, but it was an absolute bloody nightmare. And I posted videos of it, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But for those who are listening, this is exactly what I'm talking to you about when it comes to Joe, is that you'll see Joe, but you don't know what Joe has done, but he probably rescued something. Like that's the whole thing. Like, and this is the whole let's bring Joe on the show here, is because I want people to get a little bit more of a taste of what Joe does that some people might not be aware of. Because a lot of it, like you said, like those people who showed up only on the Saturday who had no clue what an absolute S show it was the day before, that you put, just rolled up your sleeves and fixed, because you are the fixer. And that's just who you are. Like, you're talking about being a Bond villain. The fixer is kind of sounds a little bit like, Le Chiffre or Scaramanga or stuff like that. Like you are the fixer. I do have to ask you, because you are so intimately linked with a lot of the talent that are there, that are meeting with people. You must have witnessed or been around some faux pas, as they were, some etiquette nonsense. And I want to ask you if you can give some advice to all those, perhaps some do's and do not do's, some do's and don'ts about approaching and interacting with some of those VIPs or some of that talent, like the James Whites, like the professors and whatnot. Because I'll be real, I have had some very unique experiences of some people saying some very odd stuff to me. And I have just been like, oh, that's neat. Like, don't say that to James, but okay. So I'm wondering if you've got some advice for those prospective types who want to go and might not know what the etiquette is.
Sure. I mean, I try to have empathy in those situations too, because like there's something about fandom, right, that just gets us all jacked up. It gets us so excited. We kind of get lost in the moment sometimes. And, you might not have that access to those people, and your favorite cosplayer might finally be at a show, or James might finally be at a show, or the legendary Flake might actually be there, so long as the border authorities cooperate.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I think the low hanging fruit is if you're not sure, ask. Like, especially like, there are things like touch barriers that are kind of important to understand. Like, I know you now. You're my bro Flake. I'm still gonna ask you if you don't mind taking a selfie with me. If you don't mind if I give you a hug. Like, there there's an assumed comfort level and an actual comfort level, right? And you might have a different perspective of what's okay and what's not. Just asking a simple question: hey, random cosplayer, do you mind if I take a picture with you? Cool. Can I put my hand on your shoulder? Like, is this okay? Like, just the consent is important, approach. I'm a lovey huggy person. If I don't know you, it's a little awkward if you walk up and just hug me. Um, hey, giant man in a suit, can I hug you? Sure. Um, uh, the other part of it is like just trying to think of what you actually want to convey to this person that you're fixated on or that you are really happy to meet. And in some instances, especially with James, you got some time. You're sitting there in line. There's a queue. There's going to be an opportunity for you to actually like think about like, hey, I've never met this guy before, and I'm so excited. And he created this game and this immersive world. And then they get up there and they like their hands are shaking and they're just like, thank you. And I feel bad because like we touched on earlier, time is precious. And so if there is someone that you're going to meet and that you're going to have a chance to interact with, like, what do I actually want to ask this person? What do I actually want to engage with them about? Because I know that I might only get one chance, and it's definitely not going to be as long as I want it to be.
It's can be nerve wracking. Like, um, I remember a long time ago, and I'm talking about like 20 years ago. Okay. It was like the first season of Family Guy or something like that. And I was still living in Montreal, and they had during like the Montreal Comedy Festival, they had, a on-stage script reading of one of the episodes. So they had the whole cast there. It was like Seth MacFarlane and Mila Kunis and Seth Green and they were all on stage. And this is like the show wasn't even that popular at the time. And a lot of people like other than Mila Kunis and Seth Green, nobody there was anybody. So it was this very small venue, and we go, and I went, and it was great. And afterwards, the whole cast were just kind of lingering on stage. It wasn't like this big theater. It was this tiny little venue, and the stage is like you just walk up to it. And they were just kind of lounging around on the stage while people were filing out. So myself and a few friends started just approached the stage, and like we went there, and some other people were there. There was maybe like 10 of us, and they all stuck around. Like they were there and they were signing autographs and whatever. And again, like I didn't have the same poise or experience of dealing with talking with people or strangers and having that kind of interaction. And Seth Green is there, and I ask him, I'm like, hi Seth, could you sign my ticket or whatever? And he's like, sure. And he's signing it, and I look at him and I'm like, I gotta say something to them. So I just say, I'm like, you're not that big. I could probably take you. And I'm just like, why did I say that? I'm like, why? I'm like, Seth Green is not that he's not a big dude, and he just looks at me, he's like, yeah, probably. It's just like, I'm an idiot. Like, why did I say that? But you're totally right. Like, I get the feeling of just where you're kind of nervous. The conversation I had with Seth, well, like, I had a great conversation with Seth MacFarlane. Mila Kunis was smart. She just pieced out of there immediately. Like, she didn't stick around. But like, everyone else was there. But I totally understand a little bit of the nerves and a little bit of like what might happen. But, hey, we get over it. We get past it. And I ended up not fighting Seth Green. So that's a good thing, right? So.
If you get a chance to see him again, maybe things will come full circle.
I think he's doing.
I didn't really want to fight you.
No, yeah. If I ever see him, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, who are you? That guy from like 20 some odd years ago in Montreal who said that they wanted to fight me?" I'm like, yeah. I'd be like, "Yes, that was me. Yes, sir."
Nice.
Last one, Mr. Joe, is
Sure.
What is a common misconception about you?
Probably that I'm this very scary mean guy. Because people like I think I'm a if you've never met me in person, I'm a large person, and I'm told that I look somewhat intimidating. But when you hear me talk and you realize that my voice doesn't match my size, and that I'm honestly like I'm kind of a teddy bear, like some people can have that perception. Like the first time they see me, I'm standing at attention, I'm standing next to somebody, or my hands are behind my back, and I'm just kind of like just stoically standing there, looking intimidating, I guess. I swear to you, I'm not really that scary. If there's something that has to be handled in that way, I hope you never see it. Um, but yeah, I recently graduated from college, believe it or not. Don't let the gray fool you. And there were people in some of my classes that were like, I was scared of you until I heard you talk. And it kind of made me feel bad. Like, I can't control being a giant human, but hey, thanks. I'll be extra nice to you from now on, so we don't end up feeling that way again.
I'm going to use a wrestling reference that I hope that you can appreciate here. Is that for those who might not know Joe as well as I do, but know wrestling, Joe is more babyface Big Show than he is heel Big Show. Like that's the best way I can put it. Like, and Big Show's gone through about 152 heel turn, face turns. So, but you have been consistently a face in the industry for as long as I can remember. And the one thing I want to say is that when I met you, again, I didn't necessarily know much about you. All I knew was that the first thing that you offered was your assistance and your support. And that is something that is so refreshing. It's so appreciated, and it's so comforting because we're all there in a foreign city for the most part, or not our hometown, amidst strangers for a lack of a better term. And you have a job to do, and it can be intimidating, and it can be scary, and it can be overwhelming. But that moment when you and I kind of, talked for the first time and like realized like, hey, we're both pulling in the same direction here. Like it was just, it was immediate comfort and solace and support. And I do sincerely appreciate that. And that has never relinquished, that has never slowed down. It has only increased over time. And I want to say that I appreciate you, and I know how many other people out there appreciate you, whether they know it or not. Like, that is the thing, is that whether they know it or not, they owe so much to you for keeping things running smoothly, for putting out those behind the scenes fires, and for letting people like me, like James, like everybody else, just feel safe, good, and taken care of. And that is important. And I sincerely appreciate you for that, Joe.
I thank you very much, and honestly, that's something that I jokingly said that I feel seen by you, but I genuinely feel that right now. One of the like it's an honor to be at these shows. It's an honor to be a part of this community, and I want people to feel good. I want them to feel safe. I want them to feel like it's okay to have a good time and be themselves. And there, especially when interacting with people like you, you're one of the stars there, man. You're there to shine bright. And sometimes what you need is somebody who's there and there to support you, but someone who's okay with stepping into the shadows so you can shine a little brighter. And that's kind of the approach that I take, especially when I'm sitting next to James. I love that people come up and say hi. I'm like, hey, can I get a picture with you? And my answer is always the same. I appreciate it, but let's focus on James right now. Like after the fact, sure, if you find me on the floor, I'd love to take a selfie with you. But right now, I'm with this person. I have this job to do, and I want them to feel like the most important person in the room. I feel that way with you. I feel that way when I'm walking around with cosplayers, artists, whatever. It's honestly, it's an honor to be there to serve and to help out.
Well, I appreciate that, and you are a big part of these events, and I'm glad that we got this opportunity to basically show the world that is the truth here. So I do want to do one more giveaway here as we thank our sponsors again at The Realm Games. Go to the Realm Gaming Network and, hey, use that code INSTANT5. Did you know you get 5% off your purchases at The Realm Games? If you use that code INSTANT5, might as well beat that drum. Go get some pre-orders in for Miss Whale. Why not? Use that code. And I do want to say that there's another $10 of store credit to give away. And I'm going to ask you in the comments of this video here, why don't you tell me, say, hey, what is your favorite memory from an event? What is your favorite memory of an event? Whether it's meeting somebody, maybe it's seeing Joe. Hey, why not? Put it in the comments, and next episode we will give away $10 more of store credit that you can use at therealmgamingnetwork.com. I do want to thank again our Patreon supporters. You can go to patreon.com/instantspeed, and for as little as $2 a month, you can just go ahead and pat me on the back, say, hey, Flake, here's a coffee, because you damn well know I need it. And yeah, we do have some Tier 3 Patreon goodness, which is going to be some Go Again action with one Joe Sapp. I'm going to ask Joe things like, hey, Joe, what's a movie that you would never turn off when it's on TV? How about this? What's the hardest part of your job? And Joe, what's the best meal after a 12-hour workday? We're going to ask Joe that and all kinds of other great questions. But before that, Joe, I do want to say thanks again for being on the show and asking you if people want to reach out to you, if they want to hire you even, what's the best way to get in touch with the fixer, Joe Sapp?
First and foremost, it's an honor. Thank you so much for having me. If you want to reach out on social media, that's fine. Joe Sapp TCG on X, my first dot last on the other social media sites. For professional stuff, if you're being serious, sapeventservices@gmail.com. Don't be afraid to reach out. Looking forward to hearing from people.
Hell yeah, man. You do TCG events, you do bar mitzvahs, everything, man. Cattle calling contests, whatever it takes, man.
Was just at the Cow Palace a couple weeks ago, but in addition to TCGs, concerts, I actually got my start in the music business, and sporting events. My biggest project I do every year is the Rose Bowl down in Pasadena, so fun times.
Oh, cool. Well, there you go. Joe, what is it? Sapp Event Services?
Yep.
Bingo. 2 P's on Sapp. Don't mess it up, friends. Don't mess it up. All right, that does it for this edition of the Instant Speed Podcast. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. Hey, be kind to one another. It's very important. Don't forget, you are not losing if you're learning. Just keep playing the game. You might win. We'll catch you next time on ISP.
Well, I work hard.